Okay, it's day 143. This is part three, and I have to now say nice things about Canada because I respect Canada greatly, and all the great technologies that's come from Canada. And this University of Waterloo thing, a comment came from McDuff and said, do you think the CIA was involved in investing there? Because I remember our Fortran was Watt 4 for Waterloo 4 and then Watt 5 for Waterloo 5. And I used to teach Fortran, and I remember this. And I said, yes, there's got to be something about Waterloo. And then I remembered a documentary a while back called Code Breakers from the BBC. And it was not only about Alan Turing, but it was also about two other guys. And somehow I remembered Waterloo. And it turns out I made the connection. It was a high-end mathematics school, and the key guy there was named Tut. And this Bill Tut ends up actually breaking the code of a much more sophisticated machine than the Enigma machine. Alan Turing is known for the Enigma, which is a three-cam cipher, take three random characters and figure it out. And the German pilots and U-boat commanders used it. But the problem was they kept using their girlfriend's initials. So through human intelligence, they could figure that out, and they eventually broke the cipher. The Lorenz cipher was a 12-cam cipher, a much more difficult cipher to break. But what they did was sort of the same thing we do in our analysis with frequency analysis. There's the 12-cam cipher, is use common German words that would begin phrases, that would begin sentences, and then see the result of the cipher through the trial word, to see what the answer was. And it's pretty much what we do in our series. We look at previous modus operandi and apply facts from different news stories and then see if it matches a pattern, see what kind of frequency we get. We alter the cams and the settings a little bit, but basically that's what we do until we start getting clear English coming out. And in this case, we're getting a lot of clear English. So again, Bletchley Park. And then another guy named Tommy Flowers then says, hey, if the faster we can feed these proposed words in, sort of like us doing several videos a day, the faster we can get out proposed ciphers, proposed plain text. And we'll do this through computers. Instead of doing 1,000 words a minute or an hour, we're going to do 5,000 a minute using the computer. And this is really the untold story of the computer, because ENIAC then is brought up by IBM. Some people say that was another Nazi theft by Brown Brothers Harriman to start IBM. Was really based on all this cipher material from MI6. And Bletchley Park, we'll never know the answer. We might know the answer someday. But to give credit to University of Waterloo, because he comes to the University of Waterloo and starts this department. And of course, Hitler applied this to war. This was called Hitler's BlackBerry, this cipher machine. It was called Tunny for tuna fish. It was the big one. It was the big tuna. It was the hard one to break, not just the easy one, not just the easy Enigma machine to break. So it's natural that criminals would apply this same type of technology, right? The BlackBerry technology, this cryptography, to crime. If they're applying it to war where secrecy is of the utmost, then you apply it to crime as well. And of course, we had our big success yesterday after a year of screaming, it's the BlackBerry, stupid, to finally the feds busting this key phantom technology, this phantom thing yesterday, where this Vincent Ramos and so forth. So, just another story that broke is a doctor, 68-year-old doctor, dealing drugs with this motorcycle gang in New Jersey. There he is, right there, and of course he commits suicide in his jail cell, and he is playing with some rough customers. Now, was he really out there in the leathers and doing all the riding around with the gang? I don't really think so. I think he was just compromised. I think they went to his office and said, hey, doc, you want to be alive or not? Here's your chance to remain alive. But you can still see that this, if you want to break this gang, you just have to go for their cryptology. If you want to break the Pagans Outlaw motorcycle gang, then all you have to do is look at their BlackBerries. Someone just sent me several copies of these stripped down BlackBerries. And so our little experiment with our little formula here, looking at all the different types of manufacturers and so forth in our DEA licenses, M, mid-level practitioner, E, manufacturer, F, distributor, and so forth, I applied the Tunney code incorrectly. I started thinking about it. Here's odds added together in our DEA number. Here's evens added together. It wouldn't make any difference what order you added them in. And there had to be something happening, another operation happening to the evens. And it's sure enough, there is. The operation I left out was you have to multiply the evens times 2. If you multiply the evens times 2, it's not 5, you get 10. You add 15, which is the odds, to the 10, you get the 25. And your check number here, the rightmost digit becomes 5, and 5 equals 5, so it's not phony at all. This is actually a valid license. So now try and forget. Through the mistake, it reinforces the formula that you'll never forget to multiply the second half, the evens times 2, and now knowing this is a valid license. Well, as I said, we're going to look at other licenses. This is Mark Johnson. Mark Johnson, you probably remember from our Rothschild days when I called him the Rothchildren. He's kind of the personal runner for the Rothschilds. And here's M, which means he's a mid-level practitioner. Here's his J. There's his mid-level practitioner code. Okay. And then we're going to see that he has his own plane, pilot's license, 3 DEA licenses. He's on the internet, 3 international watch lists, and so forth, and very closely tied to the Rothschilds. Okay, here's another person that's the current Secretary of Transportation. You always want the Secretary of Transportation to have a DEA license, and she's M, mid-level practitioner, and then there's the C for her first letter of her last name. That works as well. Now here's another one. Okay, F, this is a distributor. You always want the Director of Strategy at the House of Representatives, right, for technology. You always want them, F, being a distributor of DEA, And of course, there's the A. Whoops, sorry, going crazy. There's the A for the Awans, right? And then this is in Danville, Virginia. Always nice to know. We'll see if that's the same Omar Awan. I believe it is. It actually comes up with his record. So we'll see if that's Omar Awan or not. So that's your wrap up. We don't have currently Mark Lambert's address yet, his DEA license yet. We don't have some of the other ones that we're going to bring you, but we'll bring them as we get them.